Rippa's Snarlfangs are riding onto the scene of Warhammer Underworlds Beastgraves, and I'm thinking, thank God we have a 3-member warband who isn't Stormcast. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the BattleCast. It is Warband Preview Day. Obviously I don't quite get the product early, so maybe you've read the amazing articles by Hexes of Warbands, Can You Roll a Crit, and I think that's it. Maybe Steel City got Agents of Sigmar had a preview as well. Well, here's mine. If you're interested in my take on them, it might be different. So we're going to go through all the faction stuff, and then after that, the universals. I'll give you my thoughts and opinions on them. I'm not going to, read out the cards too much unless it's applicable. I'm just going to flash them on the screen and speak to them. So let's get into it. It's going to be a longer video, but this warband is super dope. So starting off with the man, the myth, the legend, it's Rippa, the leader of this warband. And you know what? This leader is pretty decent, and he's pretty versatile. He's no Crackmaro, because that guy is fucking crazy, but he's pretty good. You know, damage-wise, Rippa is decent. He's 2 hammers for 2, and then he also has his reactionary wolf attack, which means that the high roll potential for this guy is quite insane. I mean, if you can roll crits, then this guy's going to blow some people out of the water. Furthermore, you have, double chances to push back, so if you're banking on pushing someone into a lethal hex, that's pretty reasonable. If everything goes according to your plan, you could do 4 damage or even 5 damage if you get that lethal hex. And what I love about this guy is he's a goblin and he's not made of tissue paper like we're used to seeing. The guy's 4 health with a shield to start, which is pretty good. The Inspire condition on this guy is one of the harder ones we've seen in this game, which is, he's got to get 2 upgrades on them. And this need to have him around directly counteracts the Inspire condition of his other fighters, which we'll get into a little later. Needless to say, you're going to have a pretty good strategy to get this leader inspired in the first round. Now, when he does inspire, he goes up to 5 movement, he gets 2 dodge instead of 1 shield, and he stays the same health. What I like about this dodge characteristic is not only is it better than 1 shield, protects you from the rampant cleave that we see in this game. It makes spectral armor a very cool upgrade for this guy. Put it on and flip him to the inspired side. Very cool. And sudden growth seems like a pretty solid idea on this guy. I mean, movement 3, and now he's got 6 health. Now, when he's inspired, he rolls 3 hammers for 2, which is good. And his wolf attack is 2 swords for 2. They all do that, which is also more reliable. And then randomly, he gets a bow. And, I think for the bow, better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Overall, a very cool and thematic fighter. On now to Mean Eye, who is a bit awkward of a fighter and the Targor of the bunch, if you will. He's essentially a Grot Bowman on a mount, but he's got better defensive stats. He also has the Wolf reactionary attack, which is, again, awkward with his bow because you'd have to be right next to the person and then your Wolf attacks, which seems kind of counterintuitive. The Inspire condition for both Mean Eye and Stab It is that your leader has to be attacked or is out of action. This is a very interesting mechanic. Generally, I'm not a big fan of Inspire conditions that are dictated by your opponent, but this one I think is okay because if your opponent is going to go ahead and focus down Stab It and Mean Eye instead of your leader, they're probably going to be in trouble because Rippa is clearly the biggest threat in this warband. Inspired, he gets the same base stats as Rippa does, except that his bow gets an extra dice now. On to Stab It, who wears his heart on his sleeve as far as his name is concerned. You gotta love greenskins. His stats are literally the same as Mean Eye, except that he has knockback and his melee attack is range 2. And again, this is sort of awkward, given that the wolf needs to be right next to somebody, and knockback is directly also going to counter the ability of your wolf to attack, so... Inspired, his base stats are the same as everybody's, with the 5 movement and the 2 dodge, but interestingly, he gets an extra sword on his melee attack, but then he also gets a scything attack. Sadly, the wolf can't just keep attacking as you swing around and hit everybody, dare to dream. Overall, based on the fighter cards, I'd say this warband seems not bad. For a 3-member warband, they get the benefit of being a bit tankier, but they're certainly no Magors or Condemners. They are, however, all hunters, which again, as the season plays out, I think we're going to see plays a big role in this game. Moving on now to the objective cards. We've got a score immediately for 1 Burning Spite. And this is not terrible. Again, that Inspire condition is based on your opponent. I mean, you can certainly influence this happening by running Rippa in, but again, that counteracts him getting inspired because then he might die. Seems like a big risk for a low payout card. Next we have Chase Down, a score immediately for 1. And this is certainly a doable card. There's a lot of things you can do to make this work, especially because this Warband's pretty tanky. But there's a lot of things this Warband does where if it has supporting fighters, it will blow someone up. So the question is, will there be an enemy fighter left when you have both fighters adjacent to them after an activation? I don't know. Next we have Conquered Land for 2. And this card is very similar to Reclaim the Lamentari, which is a good card. With the Inspire condition of Rippa benefiting from having upgrades on them, I could definitely see this Warband taking a somewhat Chosen Axes approach where they kind of, hang back, bait their opponent in, score some glory, get strong, and then take it to town. They also have, the double chance of pushing people off objectives, so I think that they can hold objectives fairly well. Next we have Cruel Hunters, a dual card for 2, and this card seems great. This seems like something that you are going to do at some point during the game with this Warband. Stab It needs to stab, Rippa needs to rip. This makes sense. Next we have Feeding Time, a score immediately for 1. And I think we all knew that this card was coming given the wolf attack. I just don't know if it's worth having in your hand because nothing's going to feel worse than having this in your hand and just not ever hitting. So I just don't think it's worth running. It also has that awkward situation where, you need to take the fighter out with the wolf attack action. So you might charge in and be like, oh, I hope my main attack fails and then I succeed on this less good attack. It's just not worth it. Next we have Lay Waste, and I just don't know why they make faction-specific annihilations. Like, we get it, you want this Warband to kill a lot of people, but let them run the normal annihilation. You're not going to run both. Or maybe you are, I don't know. Next we have Leading the Charge, a score immediately for 1. And this whole time going through the list, you've been like, where are the good score immediately cards? Well, here it is, and it's an auto-include. It's amazing. Next we have Loaded with Plunder, which is a very interesting card, because we've seen this card many times before, and it's 1 glory, and it's never really been worth it. But for 2 reasons it's good. Firstly, it's worth 2 glory, so that's dope. Secondly, it's already something you want to try and do, because Rippa needs 2 to get inspired, and what's 1 more? I think this card's a win-win and pretty good. Next we have No Mercy, a score immediately for 1. And I think this card is a bit better than Feeding Time because it can score off of the wolf attack because, you hit them, you succeed, they have damage on them, and now the wolf attack hits, and then you hit them again. Furthermore, this Warband, aside from Rippa, does not have a ton of one-shot potential, so I definitely foresee, multiple attacks having to be used on the same target, so I think this card's okay. Next we have Plunderers for 1. This is okay. I definitely foresee Stab It and Mean Eye needing attack action upgrades in order to be deadly. Maybe the Amber Stones or whatever, but based on their just original stat line, they need a bit of help, and therefore upgrades might be good for them. I will also just add that it says, if each surviving friendly fighter, so if you've only got 1 guy left because you're getting your ass kicked or it's a tight game, you'll still score this card, so it's actually quite achievable, and I think it's actually better than I initially thought. Next we have Swift Hunters, and this is a very good and safe card. Having a member die totally disqualifies you from scoring this card, which sucks. I see this card pairing well with Conquered Lands, because if you play a passive first round, you might be able to build up quite a bit of glory and then go in when you're fully upgraded. I think the sooner you can get 2 upgrades on Rippa, the better. Now we're going to move on to Gambit cards. And a side note is I love the art on these Gambits. Very cool. First we have Defensive Maneuver, which is a why not card. I mean, do you want to make your opponent charge you after you attack? Do you want to be on guard as well? Then this is a great card to play. The only downside is that it can't be used offensively, and so it's not quite as versatile as a sidestep. What it does do, however, is it very much sets up the fighter that you just, charged in, attacked, used this. It sets you up for that fighter not being pushed back because they're on guard, probably getting attacked because you put them in a compromising situation, but then you can come in with another one of your fighters and totally mangle that guy with some of the great ploys we're going to see. Oh my god, what is coming?
St. Damian's corncob pipe! Do my eyes deceive me?
Furious Reprisal has arrived. This puppy is an aggressive defense, rolled in with a Fueled by Fury. I mean, this shit is strong. No doubt this is in the top 5 strongest Gambits of all time. The only downside is that it doesn't give you the prevention of being pushed back, so it's a little harder. You'd have to crit them out or they'd have to fail or whatever, but if you can land this thing, it is going to be deadly. Next we have the Narrow Escape, which is a cool card, but I don't think it's worth a Gambit slot. I think I would rather it be in an upgrade slot like Potion of Constitution. The next card we have is Pack Tactics, and the only thing better than a push 1 is pushing 3 people 1. So totally include if you're thinking about running Sidestep, and maybe you'll even get some more benefit out of it. Next we have Savage Mauling. And in a 3-member warband, I feel like you're just going to be aiming for the +1 dice, +1 damage, which is essentially the same as an Inspired Attack, and maybe you should run that card also. This card isn't bad, it just kind of depends on your ability to line up the supporting attacks, which again, I do think that this warband is going to be about. Next we have Smell Weakness, and I really do think this warband needs to do multiple attacks to kill a target. So again, you're gonna send up Mean Eye, he's gonna shoot someone, possibly, bait someone in, and then you'll play this card and run in with Rippa and just seal the deal. I think this card could be a sleeper hit. For an isolated fighter, there is no defense against this attack except a critical. Next we have Unbridled Ferocity, and this is like a lightning reflexes, a reroll attack when you fail card. The problem is that it's for the wolf attack, and I just don't think you should ever bank on that wolf attack succeeding. It's going to be better if it shows up as a pleasant surprise. Last play we have is Vindictive Attack, and +1 dice cards in this game are a dime a dozen. But +2, with no drawback, now that's good. Moving on now to the upgrade cards, we have Bonded. Now this SOB is a strong card. Not only is it thematic, but it makes Inspired Rippa a goddamn menace. His defense, his attack, and even the dog's attack all increase in effectiveness by a pretty good amount. This is the best faction upgrade card in the game. Next we have Boss Hat, again another thematic card. And I never like playing as if my leader's gonna die, but this upgrade is really good. Your opponent would be a fool not to focus Rippa because he's so strong. I think it's safe to say at some point he's gonna die. And if he isn't by some chance dead during the game, well, he's the bringer of death of your warband, so all the same, it's better. Next we have Hunt as One. This is a very cool and thematic card. Again, they're really nailing it with the theme of this warband. Now, I actually think that this card is quite strong. I definitely foresee baiting enemies in with Mean Eye or Stab It, and then putting this upgrade on them and then running in with Rippa. If Rippa attacks somebody who is supported by one of these fighters with this upgrade, his attacks are basically impossible to miss. With the addition of push cards as well, I do think this card is quite good. Lastly, we have Loping Strides, which is amazing. +2 move cards are so valuable, especially when you can score objectives based on big movement, and no one is safe now with a move 7 Wolf. Overall, having reviewed everything this warband brings to the table, I think that I actually really like them. I think that they're going to make aggressive warband players be a little more finessed about the positioning of their fighters, as it seems like supporting is going to be the key to this warband's success. Now moving on to the universal cards, and again, we're going to try and rapid fire through these. I'm only picking the ones that I think are really good. The first objective is a score immediately for 1, and it's a big boy. It is Brought to Bay. This is super solid, and probably, one of the best score immediatelys we've seen out of this set so far. You've got an aggressive warband. Does it have some hunters in it? Pop this card in there. Next we have Duck and Parry, a score immediately for 1. And it's not that good because, if you do score this, your opponent's going to be like, I see, never again. But I think it would be funny for the Skaven, who have upgrades that can, make them attack their own fighters, and you can do some shenanigans that way. So it might be kind of fun. Gathering Momentum, the hybrid card, is a score immediately for 1. And you can do this in two ways, scoring 2 surge objectives in a round, which is definitely something everyone should be trying to do. I mean, loading up your deck with surges is kind of the way to go. But being able to charge 5 is a really safe fallback if, your hand isn't that good, especially for some warbands with some really shitty fighters with big movement, or animals as the case may be, for Skaiths who have got the dog, Krakmaro who has the bat, and Molag who has the bat squig. Next we have Steady Assault to score immediately for 1. And this card is dicey because it's pretty specific to a couple warbands. I mean, maybe Molag because he's the only person you're going to be attacking with anyway. Maybe Snarlfangs because they have that reactionary attack. You start engaged and then you're able to kind of just let it go, or bows or something like that. But you have a couple fighters like Anzelane, Ironhail, and Altheon, who all have upgrades that allow them to double attack. And next we have the objective I think everybody's been waiting for or fearing, and that is Temporary Victory. This puppy is a non-faction specific. Score immediately for 2 Supremacy. Bye-bye Supremacy, bye-bye. I just can't overstate how strong this card is, especially when factions already have a faction specific card. I mean, the Thorns of the Briar Queen are just going to ruin people with this card. But the Despoilers are going to ruin people. It's just, this is such a good card to have. Not necessarily because, hey, maybe I'm going to get both in the same turn. You might. But you're increasing your chances of having it in your hand when you need it in your hand as well. It's so good. It probably will make the BAR. Next we're on to the Gambits, and we have Downwind. And I really like this card. I think that it's obviously something we needed in this season, something that makes someone a quarry, and is useful to you, even if you can't kind of pull off the quarry mechanic, because it's still a push. So if you're running Sidestep, you might as well run this card. Next we have Hostile Ground, and it's a shame that it's only in your territory, but maybe if you're a hybrid warband and you've got 3 objectives on your side, or they're clearly the aggressor, this might be okay. Next we have Hunting Party, which I am totally thrilled by. I think this card is super cool. For warbands like Rippas, where everyone's a hunter, and I think supporting each other is really valuable, you charge in to support your fighter, and then you play this card, and now you're both on guard. It just seems good. Next we have Inverted Terrain, a spell, and, this might be the little ace in the hole that you need to shut down objective warbands. I think it's nice that we have the option of running this, especially if your local meta is all objective all the time. Next we have Overkill. And I know a 14-foot tree-wielding troll who might like this card. Now you do get Spent Glory, which I think is fair. It reminds me a lot of Scavenge, even though you got a Unspent Glory with Scavenge. So that one didn't see play that much either, so we'll see if this one sees play. Next we have Tracking, and this is a very cool card, and if it targets a hunter you get +2 movement, so it's a Spectral Wing in Season 3. You hear that? We have a Spectral Wing already in Season 3. Jesus. No need for the gift pack now. Next we have Unexpected Peril, or as I think of it, Unexpected Salvation. Because if you're an objective-based warband and somebody's flipped your token, well, now you can flip it back and score it. Moving on now to the upgrades. We've got the Avatar of Urgrub. I love that you can't include this card in your deck. You're starting a game and you're just like, I'm just going to put this card over here. We'll see how it plays out. You can never tell until the full set's revealed. Next we have Hidden Presence. And I think this card is cool. I mean, if you're going to run it, you might as well try it now, while being a quarry is, the least punishing it will be, presumably. It's only going to become more punishing as the season goes on. Put it on a fighter who hasn't moved yet in the end phase, and maybe protect them from that transfixing stare that is so rampant these days. Next we have Lara's Instant Shield, an upgrade that gives you a spell reaction, and I like this card for 3 reasons. First, it's good because it helps you save your wizard. Secondly, it's a spell, so it could help you score spell-based objectives, cast X amount of spells. And lastly, it's a spell reaction, which can help you score the oh-so-elusive Sorceress Retort. If you're playing the Cursebreakers, you gotta run this card. Next we have Lethal Snares, and this card I think is going to be important if this whole flipping objective thing becomes a thing. The second last upgrade here we have is Repeating Mirror, and it's close to being good, but it's not. If it worked against spell attack actions, this would be pretty cool, but also a lot of spells your opponent casts are going to benefit them in the coming round, and that just simply isn't applicable to you when this goes off, so it's not that good. And lastly, we have the Sting of Grub, which is a great strength. We've got 2 great strengths again. We saw this in Season 1 and 2 with incredible strength. And for now, this one isn't on the BAR, so maybe you should enjoy it while it lasts. So that's my review of the Universal cards. On the whole, I would say there aren't that many good ones that come with this pack, but there are some very good ones that do come, and for that alone, I mean, you gotta get it. Temporary Victory is absolutely outrageous. Brought to Bay is needed if you're going to be aggressive with hunters. Tracking is a Spectral Wings for hunters. And for the upgrades, you know, none of them are that crucial. So that's my review for this entire pack. I hope you enjoyed. I'm very excited to play these guys. This warband is the one that really, I don't know, seems to ignite my passion for the game. Crackmarrow, not so much. And you know, nothing so far, but these guys seem great. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please consider supporting the channel by liking this video or subscribing to the channel, and especially hitting that bell icon. Feel free to leave comments in the comments section below. I love talking with you guys. Until next video, I'll see you then. Thanks.